so much to learn. There's so much value you tend to get from this meeting, and I am sure that you will not be disappointed. So please, if you have not shared this link with any of your friends or colleagues, or you know a couple of people who may have registered but are not here yet, please try to send them a reminder, get them to join in, and you're going to get good value from today's webinar. My name is Miracle Chukudebe, and I'm happy to welcome you all and have you on this very much insightful webinar. So we'll be starting in 3 minutes at exactly 12 noon. Thank you. Right, you all welcome. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for joining. We're starting in about a minute. I'm happy to be made aware that our co-hosts has joined. We have Iben Potty on the line. Hi, Ben. Can you please let me know if you can hear me? Hi, Ben. Can you please let me know if you can hear me?
Can you?
Great. Hi, Iben. You're welcome. And thank you for joining us today.
Only a pleasure, sir. Only a pleasure.
Great. All right, it's 12 noon. Thank you everyone for joining today. We're so excited to have you on today's call. And my name is Miracle Chukudebe. I work with Ethnos IT Solutions, and I'm the practice lead for our managed security services called Quest MS. And today we're having a very fantastic webinar with you. We want to share value and some insights with you that can better you as a person and better your organizations. Today, we are going to be talking about ransomware. I'm sure that virtually everyone must have come across this word, ransomware. As you go on with your job, as you go on with on the internet, these days we tend to see some of these things come up over and over again. And today, we're not just talking ransomware, but we want to talk about how Nigerian businesses, all right, we're cascading it down to Nigerian businesses, how Nigerian businesses can protect themselves against ransomware attacks, because right now it is becoming a wildfire. And not just protecting your businesses against ransomware attack, but we have a solution or a value we want to add to you as a business to see how Sentinel One can help you as an organization protect your business, protect your valuable and critical assets from ransomware. To lay the background, I like to talk about ransomware just in a bit. All right. Well, first of all, what is ransomware? Ransomware is a type of malware that tends to encrypt a victim's data and demands a ransom payment in order to decrypt it. All right. Now, like I said earlier, let me just take a step back. If you haven't shared this link with anybody, if you haven't shared this link, please go on to share the link right now. We're starting, and I'm sure and confident that you're going to get good value for being on this call today. So, like I was saying, ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts a victim's data and demands a ransom payment in order to decrypt it. So, in a simple layman's language, you have your computer system, you have your data, you have your servers. But unfortunately, because you may have clicked on a link or a ransomware has been delivered to your system, you tend to lose that data because the attack is targeted at encrypting your data. Encrypting your data. So imagine an organization that has customer data that thrives on customer data. You have that data being encrypted and you no longer have access to them except you pay the ransom to the attacker. Now, this has crippled a lot of businesses. It has crippled a lot of businesses across the world. And in fact, even more recently, we saw one of the major attacks that happened in one of the businesses in South Africa. I'm going to talk about that just quickly. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, the Nigerian businesses and businesses in Africa today, typically, we are becoming more prone to cyber attacks, to ransomware attacks specifically. First, one of the reasons will be trickled down to the fact that some of our businesses in Africa, all right, do not exactly have large cybersecurity budgets. We have limited cybersecurity budgets because some organizations tend to see cybersecurity as an afterthought. We tend to focus on profit making areas of our businesses and leave security as an afterthought, or to leave security and use a reactive approach to handling security. But that is not effective because it makes such businesses more vulnerable to such attack, as you don't have the latest security software, you don't have the latest security trainings, you don't have the latest security technologies in place to protect yourself against such attacks. All right. So it is unfortunate because many businesses have folded up because of ransomware attacks, and not just ransomware, even malware attacks generally. We have seen lots of businesses that have folded up due to heavy data breaches, due to the fact that they cannot continue business due to certain regulatory fines that they have to pay, or things they have to pay in terms of redeeming themselves or coming out of a major data security or data breach attack. So unfortunately, there's a call for people, for businesses to be more enlightened, to take proactive measures and proactive steps to protecting their critical assets, take proactive steps in protecting those things that they consider critical and assets to them as an organization. Hence the need for talking about cybersecurity, talking about ransomware, and how Nigerian businesses particularly can protect themselves using Sentinel-1. Now, like I was saying earlier, a case study that I want to highlight, the RSA Web, an organization in South Africa that had a ransomware attack somewhere around February of 2023. The South African company RSA Web was hit by a ransomware attack. Now, the attackers encrypted the company's data and they demanded a ransom payment of 10 million euros. Now, that is a lot of money, all right? But unfortunately, or fortunately, the company refused to pay that ransom. They refused to pay that ransom, and then the attackers went on to release that data to the public. They released that data across several channels. Now, that attack, or the data that was released to the public, it caused major, or rather significant, disruptions to the business processes of that organization. It cost them a lot of money, quite a lot of money, to redeem their reputation, because one of the things that this does is that it tends to damage your reputation. Now, enough has been said currently. So I would like us to now look at how an organization, you have seen the impact that a ransomware attack can cause to a business. Once you leave an open door because people are not aware, or you don't have the right security tools, you don't have the right security technologies to be able to protect your organization or your business against such attacks. When you leave that open door, it opens the pathway for attackers to target your critical assets, to target your critical data and hit you. And that is why we have come up with this webinar, to enlighten the public, to enlighten organizations about the reality of these things. Because there are a lot of ransomware groups out there. You can see we can see some like the Moveit. We can see the ones that calls themselves the Lockbit ransomware group. These are many groups, and many of them are springing every day, and their focus is to target organizations that have important data, encrypt them, demand ransoms, and if those ransoms are not being paid, they tend to release those data to the public, causing high reputational damage to the organizations. And most times, even when these ransoms are being paid, they still move on to release such data. And we tend to tell organizations it's not good. Do not pay such ransoms, because at the end, it tends to encourage them to continue doing their work and, cause more havoc to organizations. So we have an expert with us today, Ben Cotty. Ben Cotty is a fantastic speaker. Ben Cotty is from, he's from SentinelOne. He is a major, he's going to be our keynote speaker for today's webinar. It's going to be enlightening us so much more, opening up our minds and our understanding to a lot more about ransomware attacks and how organizations can protect themselves against ransomware attacks. Ben Cotty is the solutions engineer, a senior solutions engineer at SentinelOne, and we have the pleasure of having him on this call with us today. So thank you, Iben, for joining us. And at this point, I'd like to welcome you up stage and say hi. Thank you for joining us again. How are you doing today, Iben?
No, always good. And thank you very much for that brilliant intro, Michael. Really appreciate it. So in preparation, obviously, for today, I've been doing some studying. And as we go through the presentation, I'll make mention of some numbers. But suffice to say that from a Nigerian context, ransomware is a serious threat, not just to IT infrastructure, but also to economies at large.
That's right.
Okay. And Nigeria's got a thriving economy, and the attacker groups out there, the threat actors, recognize that, and therefore see Nigeria as a prime target, as an opportunity. Okay. The one thing that you need to start realizing is that malware, in its very essence, is a business. All right.
That's
They
right.
in it to make money. How do they make money? They extort. They commit fraud. They steal credentials. They on-sell data sets. Now, if you start thinking of your business, all right, what is the most critical asset to your business, to any business? I don't care how big that business is, how small that business is. What is your most critical asset? And you will find that your most critical asset is your data.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So what are they doing? They effectively monetizing your data. Right. Because if your data gets compromised, so specifically in a ransomware attack, they encrypt your data. You can't transact. And as you rightfully mentioned, you've got the reputational damage associated to it as well.
Absolutely. That's right.
You have to we have to accept that in today's economy on the international stage, the day of doing paper transactions is done. Okay. Now, if your transacting party knows that you've been breached, that has a big effect on their decision-making process in how and when and if they are actually going to transact with you.
True.
Okay.
That's
But
true.
I'll get off my high horse now and actually start showing you some stuff.
Okay.
Entire screen, and I want
Good.
to.
Thank you, Ben. I'm so excited about this. We're happy to always get enlightened. On the call today, we have quite a number of people who are, I mean, decision makers. We have some CISOs right here on this call. We have people who have come from far and near to listen and gain new knowledge, gain new understanding about what the ransomware is all about first off, and then how they as an organization can position themselves into a point where they can effectively protect those critical assets, the data that they have within the organization. So we are really happy to listen to you and enlighten us even more.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So, as you've heard, my name is Evan Cotti. I work for Sentinel-1. A bit more about myself, just so that when I kind of like go through the presentation, and hopefully we've got time for a short demo as well, so that you know where I'm coming from. So I've been in the IT industry for about 28 years now. I started off as a developer. I then moved into the database administration space at some big financial organizations here in South Africa. From there, it was a natural progression for me to move into information security, information risk, where I actually got exposed to digital forensics or cyber forensics. So I then did cyber forensics for about 9 years, where I actually built the capability at one of the largest banks in South Africa, and had the opportunity to do multiple investigations working with law enforcement in various of the African countries, from the investigation through to court testimony, and all sorts of things like that. After a while, I then progressed into insider threat hunting, also at the financial institution, where I was responsible for deploying the technologies that they used, and defining the methodologies as it relates to identifying insider threat within an organization. I then joined a partner doing incident response, operational use of Sentinel-1, deployment of Sentinel-1, and for about 2.5 years, well, 3 years. I've been working with Sentinel-1 for about 3 years across all of those disciplines, operationally, deployment, and incident response. And recently joined Sentinel-1. So why do I tell you all of this? Basically, what I'm trying to convey to you is that I have seen and experienced a lot of things. Okay. I've worked with many technologies, from small enterprise through to major corporate enterprises. But along the way, the story is all the same, because it doesn't matter whether you're a massive organization or a small organization. If the threat actor wants to do damage, they will. Okay.
That's
So
right.
we need to move away from the mindset of if I get breached and start thinking about a mindset of when I
when I get break. That's right. And then if I'm going to add something to that, to your portfolio, I must say that is quite a portfolio you got there. Really.
no, thank you, man. You know, I've got a very wide variety of skills, and at the end of the day, I'm thankful for the experiences I've had because it provides me the opportunity to engage with customers, partners as a trusted advisor. And I want to right up front tell the audience that I enjoy an interactive session. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me right there and then. We are planning to visit Nigeria soon, as soon as possibly next week. And happy to engage with you in more detail when we're in country. I'm sure you guys are going to share the contact details and stuff, Miracle.
Absolutely.
So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right.
No issues. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen, the Singularity platform.
That's correct, yes. So obviously, because I work for SentinelOne, a lot of my story is going to revolve around the product set. All right.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, I will attempt to explain to you the relevance, not just from a SentinelOne perspective, but from a risk framework and from a configuration mitigation standpoint, how a technology of sort will fit into the mix for you to consider. I'm not saying it has to be SentinelOne, but please understand a lot of what I'll show you is around the SentinelOne capability as well. All right. So SentinelOne, it's all in the name. Okay, that's SentinelOne. It's a singularity platform. All right. So the solutions we provide is driven from a singular console. It's not a case of I need to sign on to 5 different applications to investigate a threat, to mitigate a threat, to take actions in a third-party product or anything like that. You can do just about everything from the single console. All right. So if we think about cyber incidents in general in today's day and age, all right, we are facing a number of challenges. I don't care how big your company is, you will most probably face some of these challenges somewhere along the way in your cybersecurity journey. Now, the first challenge that many organizations face is they all run security tools of some shape or form. And more likely than not, they run multiple tools because we've all heard the message around a multi-layered approach or kind of like layering your defense so that if they breach that, you've still got this in place, that kind of thing.
Now, defense in depth.
Yes. So that's what we call siloed tools.
That's right.
Right? So you've got many tools, but there's no real integration between them. All right. So what you end up with is your analyst or your cybersecurity team are needing to skill up on various tool sets. All right. And when an incident happens, they kind of like are needing to know where to find what. All right. Which can delay your detection and response. All right. The second very critical issue is skill shortage. Okay. Now, cybersecurity specialists or incident responders or whatever you'd like to call them, you don't find them everywhere. All right. And actually skill up to a proficiency level where you're comfortable with dealing with cyber incidents takes time. And for the same breath, it takes money. All right. So what you find is you've got an extreme skill shortage, specifically in the security field, particularly when it comes to incident handling. All right.
That's right.
The other pillar is typically digital transformation. So lack of visibility in your environment creates a greater attack surface. All right. So there you can speak of things like shadow IT. All right. Somebody's got a server tucked away under their desk, and it's marvelous. They can do what they want to, but that's the machine that's going to get breached.
Sure.
And if you've got, from an infrastructure perspective, no visibility of the IT assets deployed or connected to your network, you are in for some serious trouble.
Right.
Right. Think of it like this. So you own a very fancy house. You've got all the bells and whistles in terms of security. You've got electric gate. You've got monitoring equipment, cameras, electric fencing, the whole trip. But now you've got adolescents living with you, and they're lazy. So they don't like closing the gate. All right. So you've got the best security systems. But if you leave your gate open, all of those security systems mean nothing to you.
That's right.
You are not protected.
That's
Okay.
right.
So let's talk a bit about Sentinel-1. Where did it start and where is it going? All right. So Sentinel-1 started about 10 years ago with the idea of disrupting antivirus. All right. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that there is a distinct difference between next-gen AV and regular antivirus. Okay. I'll elaborate a bit more on that as we go, but just keep that in mind for now. All right. From there, they kind of like evolved into an EDR pioneer. All right. You all know what EDR is, endpoint detection and response, where you get data correlation, you can do active responses, all sorts of things like that. Where we are today is we're a leader in the XDR space. Okay. So there's no clear definition for what XDR is. I'll tell you what my interpretation of XDR is, and please feel free to research that further if that is something of interest to you. So we've got EDR, but now we're progressing into XDR. What is XDR? XDR is extended detection and response. What does that mean? That means that we can ingest any other third-party security data into our data lake, and where there's integration, actually action events and threats in that third-party security tool from within Sentinel-1. All right, and I'll briefly show you an example of that as we go along. All right, now we are the leader in cloud workload protection. So if you've got assets like a Kubernetes cluster or AWS or Azure or any of those workloads kind of like running in your environment, we can offer you protection on that as well. All right, so on to what's happening in the future. So at the RSA conference in America, I think it was around March of this year, we actually introduced our artificial intelligence, which they're going to call Purple AI. So that sounds very fancy, and we kind of like growing up in a world where AI is everywhere. What makes this different is Purple AI will be the first generative AI engine where you can use natural language processing to hunt for threats and ATPs and so on and so forth in your environment based out of the Sentinel-1 console.
Sounds quite interesting.
It is, trust me. Okay. So we've talked about the siloed applications. Okay. And I've made mention of XDR. All right.
Yeah.
Now, with the Singularity platform, we give you a single console and platform from where you can manage all these things. What does that give us? It gives us real time to value. Okay, to deploy Sentinel-1 in your environment is really easy and can happen very quickly. Your total cost of ownership is also lower than with your traditional AV type setups and compared to some of the other vendors in the space. All right. Data retention, specifically if you're in the financial services environment or insurance environments, data retention is kind of like prescribed by whatever regulation it is that you need to adhere to.
That's correct.
And data storage becomes expensive because now you need to start understanding how critical is this data, how should that data be protected, you know, all those kind of typical CISO or risk questions that kind of like starts floating when you start talking about data retention. The fact of the matter is to store data in the Singularity platform is a lot cheaper than argumentatively storing it in an Azure or Google Cloud or AWS infrastructure. All right. We give you a unified data lake. In other words, we pump all your third-party telemetry, all the Sentinel-1 data into a single data lake from where you can actually do your threat hunting across all of that data, set up what we call star custom rules, where you can define custom actions or alerting based on what you see as a threat in your environment. As I said, it's an open ecosystem. So our XDR solution, Skylight, is actually open XDR. Therefore, we can ingest any data source. If you have a look at our statistics, we offer unprecedented protection. Right? If you are familiar with the MITRE attack evaluations that happens yearly, Sentinel-1 has actually come out tops for the last 4 years running. All right. We offer you automation, so kind of like a SOAR capability. All right, so that you can streamline your SOC workflows and. Okay, and Sentinel-1 is really easy to use. So what does this look like in terms of architecture? All right, at the bottom, you've got all your data feeds. All right, from identity through to email, through CASB, SASE, web, the whole host of them. We then ingest into the security data lake. On top of that, we plug the Singularity platform. Okay, that gives you an EPP EDR XDR solution. So EPP is endpoint protection. EDR is endpoint detection and response. XDR is, as discussed, extended detection and response. We give you a cloud protection capability. We can give you an identity protection capability, and I'll go a bit deeper into the identity piece shortly. We also offer services like incident response and managed detection and response capabilities. Okay. Now this is where it starts. Yes.
Sorry, before you go on, just let me make this announcement again. So to our listeners, please, if you have a question, Eben already wanted you to happily send in your questions. All right, you can use the question and answer button on your screen and just type in your question, and Eben and myself will be happy to respond to all your questions. So please do not hesitate to send in your questions. All right, thank you. Eben, please go on. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. As I said, I really like an interactive session because at the end of the day, I'm here to share my experiences and explain to you how you could possibly overcome some of the challenges that you are facing. Now, you talked about numbers and how a ransomware attack can actually cripple an organization or a business, right? So I did some research, Miracle, and the numbers I'm going to mention now is just for Nigeria. Okay.
Wow.
So 2021 to 2022, 71% of Nigerian businesses experienced a ransomware attack. Okay, let that sink in for a moment. That is 71% of all the organizations in Nigeria experienced a ransomware attack. Of that, 44% opted to pay the ransom to continue operating. All right. Now, what you need to understand about modern ransomware is they use ransomware for a number of things. Okay, by the time that they deploy the ransomware, they have already stolen your data. All right. Now, what does that mean? That means that not only are they going to extort you to get your files unlocked so that you can transact again, but there's a secondary layer to this because now they have your data. So they're going to extort money from you not to distribute your data. Third place is that they typically would have created a backdoor so that they can come back and do it all over again. All right. Does that make sense?
That's a lot, man. That's a lot going on there. That's a lot going on here.
Definitely. But remember, I said malware is a business. And globally, your threat actors actually spend billions of dollars researching, paying people for an 8-to-5 job to breach environments, extract the data, and then detonate their payload. All right.
It's true.
Now, ransomware is also typically used as an anti-forensics capability because they are destroying their footprint in your environment so that you can't properly investigate and understand what had transpired. All right. Now, if you look at the global trend, all right, there has been for 2021, 2022, there has been a 200% increase in ransomware attacks across the globe. Okay. Now, the sad reality is this. Legacy AV, EPP, EDR tools are typically difficult to deploy and maintain. All right. And they are not, and I stress this, they are not effective in dealing with modern malware. All right. 80% of successful breaches are new or unknown zero-day attacks. All right. So imagine this: you're running a legacy AV solution. Yeah, sure. You've got EPP, and they might have sold you an EDR solution on top of that, and all of a sudden you get breached. All right. And now you start asking questions, but why? But how? Okay. The fact of the matter is, legacy AV solutions make use of signature files. All right. So you are in a constant battle in the organization. So we're talking about the maintenance aspect, the operational aspect of maintaining your endpoint protection solution. Right. So you're constantly battling rolling out new signature files to your environment to make sure that you've got the best coverage available. Now, if you're in the financial industry, you've got much stricter change control processes. All right, so it might take a week or two for your change control process to take effect before you can actually roll out a new signature. Now, I might be over exaggerating this, but I've seen this happen. Okay. What does that mean for your organization? It means that firstly, zero-day attacks is not covered by legacy AV. All right. So yes, they tell you, oh, but we can do sandboxing on top of this and what have you not. Sandboxing takes time. All right. That attacker is busy with an attack. Now you send that file off for sandboxing, and 15 minutes later, only do you get a verdict, at which time, if your AV is smart enough, they start acting on it. But that means your attacker has had 15 minutes of free reign in your environment. You don't know what persistence they could have facilitated in that time. You don't know what data they could have taken in that time. All right. So what I'm getting at is time is of the essence. If you look at Sentinel-1, Sentinel-1 does not use signature files whatsoever. All right. Sentinel-1's capabilities is derived from AI and behavior engines built into the singular agent that we deploy. All right. What does that mean? It means that whether your machine is connected to a network or not does not matter. We offer you autonomous protection against typical things like new and zero-day attacks. All right. Now, here's something that if the numbers so far hasn't caught your attention, the average cost of a ransomware attack recovery in Nigeria for 2022 was $4.54 million US.
4.54
million US to
now.
recover from a
Is
ransomware attack.
for one organization or a couple of
No,
organizations put together?
that is the average cost across the 71% of businesses that got targeted.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing. That's a lot of
Now,
money.
that's not necessarily the ransom that got paid.
Yeah.
That includes replacing hardware, systems, recovery, people time, and effort associated with getting a business up and running again. That also calculates revenue lost because the business was not able to operate during that time. Okay, a lot of the time we forget about the people cost and the recovery cost when we talk about the figures about how much it costs to recover from an attack. All right, those are real costs that needs to be taken into account. All right, so why am I saying that? And this is a bit of a sales pitch, so excuse me for this. But when we give you a price for a technology, sometimes it's more expensive, but then start considering what it's going to cost you to actually recover. Not just systems, but think of people, time, effort, reputational damage, unable to transact for that time. Now, a typical recovery takes about a week or two, if you're lucky. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So attackers typically only needs about an hour and 38 minutes on your environment to create persistence, do their privilege escalations, and to own your environment. Okay. Now, if you have not automated your response actions, you're giving them more time in your environment. All right. Oops. Let's do that.
You see.
So,
Eben, can I say something here? Yeah.
yes, you may.
Now, I'm saying this from a customer point of view. All right. Some of our listeners right here. All right. Based on my experience, we've had to interact with couples of organizations of all sizes, and for a fact, some of the things you've pointed here are true. Where we still see legacy AV being used. All right.
Yes.
We don't want to call any product name, but we have a lot of them still using signatures. And like you were
Yes.
saying, where they have to now update a signature, there's a change management process, they have to test it, and then before they deploy, all of that. We still see some of those things happen till now.
Yes.
And when we have conversations with such organizations, and we're telling them, hey guys, this is not safe because you are at risk. You are quite porous. Attackers are investing so much into getting into your system, into getting into your network, into stealing data from you. But one of the things or one of the pushbacks they would always give is, this next generation AVs or EDRs or XDR are expensive. All right. And I like the fact that you've actually come up with these numbers that tends to let these organizations understand that you have so much more to lose. Not just people time, not just the data that's been lost, not just the ransom that you may or may not pay, but your reputation as an organization tends to be marred to an extent that you may not even recover. We've seen businesses that
Yes.
folded up right after a ransomware attack or a data breach. So I really appreciate the fact that you're having to take time to elaborate on this so that organizations will begin to see even more details. Even those who are not on this call but may listen to this recording later will get to see the value that we're trying to speak to them and then make more informed decisions to protect your critical asset as an organization. I just wanted to add this to
Absolutely.
this. So please go on,
Mhm.
Yvette.
Absolutely. Now, I want to add to that,
Mm.
and I realize and I recognize that a security purchase is typically a grudge purchase. Okay, it's like you have to in South Africa. You have to have car insurance when you buy a new car. Okay, I have to have household insurance in case I get burgled so that I can replace whatever was taken. All right. And that's a great purchase because what am I paying for? All right. I'm paying for, not to say that it's not going to happen. All right. I'm paying for the convenience and the peace of mind that somebody else out there is carrying the risk with me. Okay. Now that sounds kind of contrary. However, let me tell you this. So in the existence of Sentinel-1, now we really do extremely well with ransomware attacks. All right. And in so much so that Sentinel-1 will actually give you a warranty that if your environment was configured appropriately, and obviously you running the right version of agent and if you suffer adverse effects from a ransomware attack, they are willing to give you $1 million as compensation.
This for real?
Yes.
Hold
Now,
on, hold on.
Here's
Now, take for example, during the numbers, the statistics you gave us earlier about an organization, about the 70% of organizations in Nigeria that have had ransomware attacks in the past. Yeah.
Yes.
Say for example, are you saying some of these organizations, the organizations that are that are qualified to get this $1 million are organizations that had Sentinel-1 before the attack, or that got Sentinel-1 after the attack?
That's so here's the clincher. In 10 years,
okay,
we have never had to pay out the warranty.
That's a lot. That's applaudable.
Okay. Just thought I'd leave that out there for you. Okay. So I do know that we are running a bit short on time, so I am going to kind of like increase the speed because what I'm about to get into is some of the capabilities of Sentinel-1. And I want to leave some time for discussion and questions as well. All right. So from an endpoint perspective, we are an industry leader. All right. We've got the fastest MTTR with the highest accuracy. All right. What does that mean? So MTTR, mean time to respond. All right. Because you're dealing with a single platform, singular interface. All right, very intuitive interface. You don't need to jump around to various tool sets to actually resolve an incident or investigate an incident. It means that you've got a more productive workforce. All right, they can get to the bottom of an incident very quickly.
That's right.
All right, we streamline security because it's a single pane of glass. All right. So whether you're dealing with a Linux, a Mac, a Windows, a Kubernetes cluster, cloud workload protection, storage protection, it doesn't matter. Your interface is exactly the same. All right. And coupled with that, we can offer you automation on top of it as well. All right. Increased analyst efficiency. Right, so those of you that have experienced a SOC, a Security Operations Center, alert fatigue is a real thing.
Sure.
All right, so what does that mean? Alert fatigue is when your SOC analyst or your incident responder gets too many alerts that he starts missing critical alerts. All right, Sentinel-1 will only show you what is relevant, and it will roll up where multiple incidents of the same threat has been detected. All right. Understood?
That's right.
All right. So as I mentioned, identity security. All right. So what is identity security? So we're all focused on securing the endpoint, whether that be a server, desktop, laptop, doesn't matter. But if you look at the anatomy of an attack, what do? They compromise the endpoint. What is the first thing that they need from that endpoint? It is an identity so that they can do lateral movement in that environment. Very few security products out there actually offers identity security. Sentinel-1 can offer you identity security, in other words, securing the identity on the endpoint itself. We can offer you visibility into configuration and vulnerability associated to your Active Directory. We can also offer you protection of that Active Directory. We can offer you, whom of you are familiar with honeypots?
That's right.
Okay, so we can offer you a deception technology as well, which is kind of like a honeypot on steroids. All right, we can create deception objects in your environment that actually look and feel exactly like your environment, down to the MAC address level. All right, so we can get really granular and creative with it. All right, what we can then also do is, from an identity protection perspective, we can then associate deception identities on your endpoints to other deception objects which we've created, thus steering the attacker onto a deception network, at which point we actually capture all the IOCs, understand their behavior, do forensic analysis, do packet captures, all the while the attacker thinks that they are actually on a real environment. And when we've collected enough telemetry, we sinkhole them. In other words, we chuck them off your network. We can then use that information to strengthen your risk posture, because now we know what the attack looks like. We know what tools they use. We know exactly which IOCs to watch out for. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So what do you want to do with identity outcomes? You want to reduce security risk. You want to protect critical credentials, and you want to minimize the time to detect. All right. So if you deploy Ranger AD, which is the Active Directory piece, you deploy Singularity Identity, and then you deploy Hologram. Okay. As soon as a deception object is touched in your environment, you will get alerted, right? So when we say we've got the fastest mean time to respond, we mean it, because as soon as deception object is touched, you get notified. So the attacker does not have dwell time in your environment. Okay, does that make sense?
Makes sense a lot.
Right, so as I've mentioned, we do directory protection, we do identity threat detection and response on the endpoint, and we've got a deception technology as well. Now, the identity piece runs separately from the EPP piece. So it runs separately from your endpoint protection piece. All right. So you can literally deploy just the Active Directory piece, or just the identity piece, or just the program piece, or any combination of those as you see, and depending on what you are needing to achieve from a risk and security posture perspective. All right. Now, I made mention of the XDR. I'm not going to delve too deep into this. Suffice to say that it's an open XDR. You can ingest your other third-party telemetry into this XDR and then action and query those as and when needed with the functionality to actually do some SOAR capability, so your automation capability, together with custom rules and alerts associated with that across the data stack, not just based on the Sentinel-1 telemetry. All right. So, as I mentioned, we do services as well. So we can offer incident response services. We can offer like a MDR service, in other words, managed detection and response, where we've got analysts 24/7 monitoring your environment, dealing with any incidents and doing escalations if and when appropriate for your environment. We can offer you threat intel based on your organization, where they will actually perform threat hunting in your environment as it relates to your environment as well. All right.
Makes sense.
The one thing, and this is a personal motto of mine and my colleague Wayne, is our customers are always number one. All right. You will always be a name and never just a number. All right. That's my personal commitment to all of you on the call and whom I may engage with in future. That is my motto. You will always be number one. You will always be a name. All right. Happy.
That's really great. That sounds really nice. Really.
Fantastic. Okay. How much time have I still got, Miracle?
we actually you've spoken for close to 50 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm then not going to show you the demo per se. What I am going to do is maybe talk you through an incident or two. Is that okay?
Makes sense.
So can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can. I can see the Sentinel-1 dashboard.
Fantastic. All right. So when I said, when I spoke about the Singularity platform or a single console, this is what it'll look like. All right. This is the Singularity platform. All right. As you can see, I can do dashboarding, which will give me telemetry around the threats and security posture of my environment, from attack surfaces through to the security posture, and so on and so forth. All right. Okay. We'll delve into visibility shortly. I spoke about shadow IT. All right. I'll get back to that one shortly. From an agent management perspective, in other words, operational running of Sentinel-1, most of it will happen from the Sentinels tab. All right. From here, I can see various telemetries around my estate. All right. So if you're thinking in terms of compliance or asset management, you can actually start using the data that Sentinel-1 is collecting to facilitate that process. Because in here, we tell you exactly what the memory is per endpoint, what CPU architecture they're running, what IP addressing they're running, what applications and versions are installed on the endpoints, and so on and so forth. From here, I can perform various actions. Okay, from an endpoint perspective, I can reboot the endpoint, I can shut it down, I can send it a message, I can do a remote shell session to that endpoint. I can run a script. So if I can code it in PowerShell for your Windows environment or in Bash shell for your Linux/Mac environments, I can run a script on your endpoint. In other words, giving you a SOAR capability. All right. From here, we define our security posture or our security policy. All right. I made mention of the custom rule sets that we can build. You'll manage those from here. We've got block lists, we've got exclusions, network control. So SentinelOne comes with a built-in firewall.
Okay.
I can set up automatic network quarantine if I wanted to. Device control.
Okay.
So with SentinelOne, we can control who's got access to Bluetooth and USB devices.
Okay. Can we define policies whereby people cannot use USB devices on their machines?
Yes.
Right here on the dashboard.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. If we look at incidents, let me just expand this a bit. This is where you will manage your incidents. All right. And we'll dig a bit deeper into this in just a moment. I just want to take you through some of the visibilities and the singular console. All right. So I spoke about the identity piece. So your Ranger AD and Singularity Identity, you'll manage from here also. Applications. Okay, so because we know exactly which applications are running on the endpoints that have SentinelOne on it, we can then provide you with a threat score, depending on whether there were CVEs released for that application or not.
Makes sense.
Okay, and I can even drill into it and get to the detail of the CVEs. All right, so from a compliance and risk management perspective, this is worth gold. All right. Now, not only do I show you the applications at risk, I can also give you a full inventory plus versions of all the applications in your estate. Okay, so from a software management life or compliance slash software management perspective, we give you this data right off the bat. All right. We give you reporting capability. Remote ops is where you can start automating things. So as I said, if you can script it in PowerShell or in Bash, you'll be able to run it against a single machine, against a group of machines, or across your whole enterprise in one go. So basically, if you can script it, you can do it with SentinelOne. All right. Let's jump into an incident quickly. So what I typically do is I show people a ransomware example, funny enough,
Okay.
where I actually, I see we've got a hand up. Sorry about that. Yes. Have you got a question?
Okay, he's saying you should please expand your screen. Can you zoom out
make
a bit?
Is that better? Is that better for you?
Michael, can you let us know if this is better? You can also expand. You can also zoom in from your browser, from your own end, yeah? I don't know. Ben, I think this is good. So we don't. Okay, yeah, good. He has responded. Okay. All right, you're welcome.
Fantastic. Okay. So what I typically do is I demonstrate a ransomware attack. All right. Whereby I've got a file that has been tainted with ransomware, and I then execute the file, and the ransomware attack actually happens. Now, what I need to stress is my configuration is not set to protect. My configuration is set to detect only. Because if I set it to protect, yes. So if I set it to protect, I've got no demo because it'll kill it right off the bat.
Yeah,
all right.
That's true.
So I actually let it do the encryption. And then I'll show you how we actually go about restoring that machine with a couple of clicks.
Okay.
All right. So what's critical to understand here is that, as I said, Sentinel-1 makes use of AI and behavior engines. All right. And this is where you can see which of those engines actually triggered this alert. All right. Right off the bat, I can see exactly what command line was executed by which process and from where.
Okay.
All right. I've got a classification already saying that this is ransomware. All right. If you have a look at the indicators, please understand that Sentinel-1 is tightly associated with a MITRE ATT&CK framework. All right.
Okay.
So we track all the indicators of compromise and then show you those indicators of compromise as and when they happen. Okay. So right from here, let's say I've got a batch of incidents. I can actually do bulk operations. So I can mitigate the action, kill and quarantine. I can remediate it. Remediate's a very interesting one.
Okay.
So when an attacker breaches your system, they start making changes because they want to create persistence, create new user accounts, whatever the case may be. All right. Now, because Sentinel-1 actually tracks every single process, we know exactly what changes were made to your system. Therefore, we can remove any and all of those changes that were made by the attacker. All right, rollback we'll speak to you about very shortly. I just wanted to show you that you can do bulk operations as well. Now, part of those bulk operations is I can add it to a blacklist or a block list. I can add it to exclusions. I can choose to unquarantine them. I can actually add notes. So as an incident responder or a SOC analyst, you investigating something. And at the end of the day, you need to write a report as to what actually transpired. Now, we give you the ability to actually take notes on the incident as you are busy investigating it. All right. I can disconnect those endpoints from the network. Right from here. Okay. How does that happen? So every single machine in your environment that's running Sentinel-1, if I say quarantine a device or network quarantine it or disconnect it from the network, I'm literally telling your Sentinel-1 estate not to communicate with that endpoint whatsoever.
Okay.
All right. So everything protected with Sentinel-1 won't communicate with that endpoint.
But would they still have access to the internet?
No.
Okay.
Because what we also do is we implement the firewall on there, on that endpoint. And we literally only allow Sentinel-1 traffic through that firewall. Therefore, we isolating it completely with a single click. All right. Now, that's all nice, but I still want to see exactly what had happened.
Yes.
All right. So I can drill into this. and I can get further details, including the SHA-1 hash value associated with this threat. I can get further details around the endpoint on which this had occurred as well. All right. Now, this is where, if we start looking at the threat indicators, you can very quickly make a determination on whether this is something serious in your network or not. As I said, I can add notes. If I had XDR integration configured, I would see my XDR telemetry in here. All right, so I'll show you an example of that shortly.
Okay.
What I can also do from here is mitigate it. If there was an XDR action configured, I can perform that XDR action from here. So let's say you're running Netscope or Mimecast or Azure or any one of a number of third-party products. You wouldn't need to sign into your Netscope console to actually perform an action on that endpoint. You will select XDR response action and actually action that from within the Sentinel-1 console. So you never have to leave this place or this page to sign into something else and then come back and hop between solutions. You do it from within the Singularity console.
That's
right.
right. That's right.
Something that will be coming very soon, which is not available for the general market as yet, is a forensics collection. So we will be giving you the ability to actually do a forensic collection on that endpoint for further investigation and triage, right from within Sentinel-1. All right. Now, remember, at this point, my endpoint is encrypted. All my files are encrypted. I'm dead in the water. So one of a couple of things can happen. Either I pay the ransom and hope and pray that they give me the right unlock key, or I trash my machine, rebuild it, or hope and pray that my IT department has configured proper backups and I've tested those backups and that the ransomware hasn't attacked those backups either. All right.
Yeah.
Or you can use Sentinel-1 because literally I'm going to select kill and quarantine, remediate, and roll back.
Okay.
I'll mark it as resolved, mark it as true positive, add my commentary. As soon as I hit apply, Sentinel-1 will recover your files on that endpoint right away. All right. Now, just to give you an idea, in this example, in less than 100 milliseconds, we killed 102 processes. In less than 300 milliseconds, we quarantined 11 threat files.
So
in less than
fast.
100 milliseconds, yes, it happens on the endpoint at endpoint speed. Okay. In less than 100 milliseconds, we remediated, in other words, removed changes that the threat actor had done. In less than 6 seconds, we fully restored 257 files.
That's record time.
Yes. Now imagine you've got an estate of 1,000 endpoints and you got ransomware. Very quickly, can we isolate the affected machines to stop the spread? And very quickly, and I'm talking within a couple of minutes, we can actually recover that endpoint and have you working again as if nothing had happened.
It happened.
All right. Now, this might be enough information for you, but I'm a curious fellow. So let me introduce you to Storyline. So this attack happened. As I said, we track every single process that executes on the endpoint. So if I start clicking on this, I can see exactly which commands executed when, which then triggered a following process, which was a batch file. So it spawned a command prompt, which then executed 60 PowerShell commands. It did a registry modification in that they initiated or created their persistence in the registry. They created persistence in scheduled tasks. They tested the network, and so on and so forth. And I can start drilling down into all of these to start understanding exactly what had happened. How do you like that?
Wow, the storyline is this feature available for the regular MDR user?
If you are running the complete agent, this is all available to you.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic.
Now,
Fantastic.
if I needed to do reporting, I can actually export that. There's my whole storyline. How quick was that?
Very.
Now, please
Very
understand,
quick.
everything that I've shown you now is hosted in the web. Okay, nothing is running local to my machine. So the speed that you're seeing is real-time speed. Okay. The other thing I needed to show you is this. Let me find you a nice example. I'm looking for incidents. Just to show you kind of like, let's say that one. That's WannaCry. All right, so there's my XDR enrichment. So for this client, they've got Zscaler configured to actually ingest data into this environment. And now they've had an incident, and immediately I've got data enrichment. So what happened in Zscaler associated with this incident? Okay. So no longer do I need to flip over to the Zscaler interface and start correlating dates and times and what have you not. It's already been done. All right. Now, I actually want to take an action.
Yeah.
So I clicked on actions, XDR response actions. And as per the Zscaler configuration, okay, I can restrict this user to only run this application in simulation mode or unrestricted. So it'll be as simple as select it, hit apply. That will then communicate with Zscaler and perform this action. Instead of me going back to the Zscaler console, once again, finding the right user and doing the appropriate policy configuration to either restrict or unrestrict this application. I do it right from within the SentinelOne console. All right. Guys, there's a lot more that I can actually show you.
Actually,
but
in
as
fact,
I said,
I was gonna say, please, if perhaps you may want to, summarize it at this point, and also let me tell the listeners that we are proud partners of SentinelOne. If you are interested in seeing how all of this work in your own environment, you can just hit us up, indicate on the chat, send us an email, and we could run a demo for you in your organization. Yeah, I mean, I know that Ben, you have so much more to show. We have a SOC environment, and Sentinel-1 is one of our go-to tools that we use for our investigations and for protecting our customer. All right. And even some of our customers who have Sentinel-1 running in their environment, I mean, they go to bed and they are sleeping in peace because of the peace that Sentinel-1 also offers. So I know that you have so much more to show us on this webinar, but I just want us to try to summarize it at this point, okay, so that people can get back to their work, because I know we've actually spent a lot of time already. And also, let's be able to answer one or two questions, that is, if we have any. And then those who want to see more, they should happily let us know, and we can schedule a demo for them. So, Iben, if you wouldn't mind, just
Right.
summarize it
So
already.
at the end of the day, be mindful of the repercussions of ransomware or any other cyber attack. Be mindful of the visibility that you have across your environment. It doesn't need to be Sentinel-1 focused, as long as you've got proper visibility across your environment, that you've got skilled people looking after your environment. The threat is real. The threat is not if, but when. So be prepared, have your incident response plans ready. Make sure that you are ready to deal with whatever incident comes your way. Make sure that you're confident with the technologies that you have deployed within your environment, and regularly test your backup strategy. Data is your most valuable asset. Protect it like you would protect a loved one's life. And then thank you very much for the opportunity to actually present to you. I hope it was meaningful, and I'm happy to take questions.
Wow. Iben, thank you so much. I am happy, and I'm not new to Sentinel-1, really. I've been using Sentinel-1 for quite a while, and the insights you've given us here today, I can tell you I find them extremely valuable. Thank you so much. And at this point, I would want to know if there are people who want to know more, or they have questions, they require one or two clarity. Otherwise, I'd like to say thank you again. And just like you have clearly pointed out, for organizations to understand the criticality of their data and the need for them to protect their data. I love the way you put it. You said protect it like a loved one. That is quite,
Yes.
I mean, a remarkable way to put it. So if you have to protect your data, protect it like a loved one, because the dangers are imminent. It is not a matter of if we get hacked, or if we get breached, or if we get attacked, but a matter of when we get attacked. So, irrespective of the technologies you have, you may not want to be a Sentinel-1 customer protected by Sentinel-1, whatever the case may be. Like Eben has clearly said, have a good backup plan, regularly test your backup, have a good incident management and incident response plan and procedure, have them tested, because it is not a matter of if, but a matter of when. The statistics that Eben showed us earlier, about over 70% of businesses in Nigeria have had ransomware experiences, is not vague. It's not a lie. These are things that we see in the industry, we see happen almost every time. And it is important for organizations to be aware of that. The fact that ransomware attacks are becoming increasingly sophisticated and highly targeted. It is no longer something that happens once in a while or happens just off the book. It's something that happens more sophisticated and even more targeted at certain industries, certain organizations, certain people. And organizations of all sizes are also targeted. It is not a matter of only big organizations or only small organizations. No, these guys are targeting organizations of virtually all size, regardless of their location, regardless of whatever they have. What matters to these bad guys is data. So once you're collecting data from clients, from customers, you are a target to attackers. And ransomware attacks, because of the devastation they cause to business, because of their magnitude, because of magnitude of the impact they cause to businesses, the financial loss is incredible. I mean, the financial loss, the reputational damage that it brings to organizations are just so much. And that is why you as an organization has to take proactive measures and not reactive measures. You can see how much value Sentinel-1 can bring to you. Sentinel-1 can stop them in their tracks. Just even before it comes into your network, Sentinel-1 can stop these things in their track and keep you 100% secure from any of this kind of malware attacks, whether ransomware or any other malware for that matter. I want to say thank you again to everyone who has been a part of us. Thank you very much, Iben Kotti. You have been very and extremely, incredibly helpful. We really appreciate all the insights and what you've given us today. We're very grateful. My name is Miracle with Ethnos IT Solutions. I lead the managed security services bit of Ethnos IT Solutions, which is Quest MS. If you're on the call, you have not followed our social media platforms, please do well to follow us at Ethnos Cyber. Lots and more webinars like this, insightful webinars like this, are scheduled to come up at different times. So please stay updated with us, be a part of us, join the Ethnos family. You want to talk to us about any other situation, any other cybersecurity concern you have, you want anything at all, please, we are happy to talk with you. We are happy to engage with you at any point in time. Reach out to us on any of our platforms, via emails, via social media. We're happy to engage with you and bring value to you as an organization. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Iben, again. I mean, we're very grateful. Thank you, Komotso. I think I saw you on the call at some point. Thank you, Komotso, for even helping us put this together. Thank you, our team from my colleagues from Ethnos, Elizabeth, who helped us put this together. Thank you so much. And we're happy to do this again and again. Iben, I'm sure you'll be happy to speak to us again if we want you to come
Absolutely.
back.
Absolutely. As I said,
mm-hmm.
we might be in country as early as next week, but we'll be in touch. And Miracle, yeah, look forward to engaging with you, the team, the customers in future. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to share a bit of my experiences, knowledge with you, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Please, once you're in the country, do let me know. Come on, so I don't know if you're going to make this happen, or Wisdom. I don't know who's going to make it happen, but please let us know. Let us meet with you. Pay visits to maybe some of our clients, our existing clients, and increase the engagement. We really appreciate you all.
Fantastic.
Thank you again, and everyone, do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you one more time, and bye bye.
All right.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
All
Keep
right.
well.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right. Bye.